Our guest represents one of Canada's premier law firms and has advised on 8 of the 10 biggest oil and gas upstream transactions in Canada last year. Now, there's a good chance the industry will see more takeover activity this year. We're joined by Grant Zawalsky, partner and vice chair at Burnet, Duckworth and Palmer. Thanks very much indeed.
Thanks for having me on, Andy.
You guys involved in 8 of the 10 biggest deals. I was interested to see you worked with Meg Energy, because not only was it taken over by Cenovus, but Adam Waterous of Strathcona came in with his own rival bid. So that kept you busy, for one thing.
Certainly did. A very interesting deal and very unpredictable. And I think at the end of the day, worked out very well for Cenovus acquiring, a premier asset in Meg. Though it certainly wasn't easy for them.
Yeah, I mean, I know you can't get into the details, but that's complicated when a big bidder like Strathcona comes in and there's rhetoric involved.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is not get too emotional about it. It was business. The Meg Special Committee was clearly focused on maximizing value, and we saw some rather unprecedented activity, including a deal at the end between Cenovus and Strathcona to get Strathcona's support for the deal.
Yeah.
So.
Sorry, I interrupted you there. And then another big deal you were involved in, Whitecap buying Vermilion.
Yes, I mean, that was a more traditional deal. It was friendly. 2 companies that had fairly similar business plans. They were both building up their position in resource plays and evolving away from being conventional oil and gas companies. And, they came together to really get the size and synergies that are required to be successful in today's Canadian energy market.
What about this year? Do you think we'll see such a frenetic pace of deal making?
Well, I don't know if it'll be as busy, but it's certainly going to continue. I mean, the underlying reasons for growing through acquisitions are still there. The market pricing signal, as you mentioned in the intro, with low oil prices, not as many plays are economic at these kind of prices. So organic drilling, has to be reduced. The other factor that's very prevalent, and, we've seen this now for over 10 years, is shareholders are requiring more returns, either through buybacks or dividends, and that's reduced the cash flow that can be invested in the business. And then finally, in Western Canada, of course, the whole question of egress. And, companies are not as willing to make long-term commitments for big projects if they don't know that they can get their product to market at world prices, and then, face the situation we did 5 or 10 years ago when there was a huge discount on Canadian oil and gas.
Mm-hmm. What about U.S. private equity? They like to come sniffing around when things are cheap. Do you think we could see a big influx of that money?
Well, I think we've already seen some of that. We acted on the Kuwait transaction, and that was an example where private equity came in as the successful buyer. Certainly, we're seeing that, on the street and in the data rooms. There is interest. And as you say, it's primarily private equity. The only big public U.S. acquisition was Ovintiv's acquisition of NuVista, which is a pure play Montney. But Ovintiv had a long history in Canada, and, they're already well established here.
Mm-hmm. What, when the CEOs come to you and say, hey, I'm thinking about an acquisition, actually, how does that work? If a company is thinking of an acquisition, do a few board members and the CEO come to you and kind of run it past you? Or just give us a very brief description of how you initially get engaged by companies.
Well, usually there's long-term history with companies, and,
right.
That relationship, predates the transaction. But, most often it's led by the CEO. And that'll mean planning with the management team before it comes to the board as to, both strategic and tactical implications of the particular acquisition. These acquisitions, to be on a friendly deal. 2 to 3 years is not uncommon.
Wow.
That the acquirer will start talking to the target.
2 to 3 years. Oh my goodness. I don't know if I'd have the attention span for that, Grant. Thank you very much indeed. Grant Zawalsky, partner and vice chair at Burnet, Duckworth and Palmer.